Partnership. Today is Tuesday, November 18th. The time is 4:03 p.m. and we are in the conference room of the Orange County Partnership at 40 Matthews Street, Suite 108, Goshen, New York. This is a public meeting and it is being live streamed. Notice of this meeting was published in accordance with the New York Open Meetings Law. I'd like to start with the minutes. I want to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Orange County Partnership meeting of September 16th, 2025, which have been distributed to the members and published on our website. Any comments or corrections? If not, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, I'd like to ask Mary Beth Bianconi to present the financial report. Mary Beth?
Okay, so starting with our balance sheet, our working capital, which is one of our most important metrics on this sheet, we currently have $702,791. This represents a capital ratio of 4.70 to 1. That's assets to liabilities. So you can think about this in terms of we have $4.70 in assets for every $1 in liabilities, which is a very strong working capital ratio. Our current total checking and savings and investments as of the end of October is $776,574. And our total accounts receivable is $162,967 as of the end of October. $84,500 of this balance, or roughly 52%, of total accounts receivable are receivables over 90 days. And in accordance with our board policy, that is reflected in line 14.5. Remember that when we receive those funds, those dollars get moved back. Private investment is $885,573 through the end of October. This is up from $745,525 through the end of October last year. This represents an 18% increase, which is kudos to Connor Cassie and the group in increasing private investment. Our net ordinary income assesses profitability and shows kind of our operations. We are at $179,206 through the period of the end of October, up from a loss last year of $283,361. This results in the partnership operating at 14.34% net ordinary income margin based on net ordinary income. Profit and loss statement, the investor breakfast, gross sales were $82,600, expenses were $32,255, representing a profit of $50,345. This is 61%. The 2024 investor breakfast gross sales were $66,975 against expenses of $42,107. That represented a gross profit of $42,107, or 63%. Based on these metrics, the 2025 investor breakfast was a great success. Considering obviously cost of food and things are higher, so this still gave us a gross profit dollar of $8,000 more in 25. And that's everything I have. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? I would like to make a motion to accept the treasurer's financial report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, on to Connor Eckert to present the
Sure.
president's report.
Thank you, Chairwoman Caboose, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming in. Busy week for the team, and busy month rather for the team and the staff here, but certainly a good month. In the coming days, we'll say, Cassie will be reaching out for scheduling a special meeting in December, a reorganization meeting, to approve hopefully 2 new board members and also reorganize for the year and do a recap. So it should be a short, sweet meeting in December that Cassie will help us find an adequate time to hold. So more to come on that. Big announcement was Amazon. So Amazon received site plan approval, special permit, and an IDA inducement in the month of November, which was certainly a long time coming, and more to come on that story. But it's a project that represents, you know, $600 to $800 million investment, you know, minimum 750 permanent jobs, thousands of construction jobs, you know, 1 million construction hours, so high impact project, that's, anyway, good to see you.
Connor, has the Article 78 been filed? I know they still have time, but that's been filed already?
Yes.
And that's by the neighborhood group or the residents that were opposed to it from the very start?
Yep, so the Article 78 was filed back in October on the negative declaration, so, it's.
The negative deck to the planning board voted, right?
Right, so TBD on expanding the 78 to include the special permit, but at this point, it's just on the Article 78.
Yeah, and that could take as much as 6 months for that to play its way through the legal process.
So they would have to file another Article 78.
Yeah,
You can't,
Expandable.
right,
no,
Yeah, right,
you would have multiple running on different
Yeah.
time schedules.
yeah. So more to come on that, but there's
Okay.
some lead time as we advance, but the key entitlements were secured, which is a good economic development victory for the county, so some more to come on that.
Do you have am I allowed to ask questions?
Please.
You need
Yep.
to wait.
No, this is perfect.
I don't wanna get you off your game.
No.
What's the status of the IDA process? Is that kind of frozen now, or what?
Yeah, so it was induced by the IDA with one dissenting vote. It's in the hands of the Orange County Independent Monitor now to determine its,
Have they induced a specific pilot agreement?
it's a 15-year pilot with the sales tax abatement. So, you know, semi-standard pilot.
So not much off what they normally do on projects.
No. Well, originally this was a 20-year pilot, so it went from a 20-year pilot negotiated down to 15 years, which shaved around 25 million in savings off the top. Plus it includes a $2 million community benefit to the town of Wawayanda, a new ambulance building, so it's, I think, a much.
So community
substantial-
benefit was added and subtracted off the,
Yeah.
what's the fee set at for the IDA?
That I don't know.
Neighborhood?
Couple $1 million probably, yeah, so it's a substantial, you know, project.
And the monitor has the power to just say no, and we don't.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the process, it's at that point.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's uncharted territory, I mean, it's the first of its kind, you know,
Meaning the
structure
first-
in the state, yeah, to have
A monitor with that kind of power
Right.
over.
And can the monitor act in an arbitrary and capricious manner, or could that be subject to an Article 78 if they act in an
I would
arbitrary
think
and
so,
capricious
yeah.
manner?
I would think so, absolutely. And you look at the project, it's like a 25-to-1 benefit to cost ratio. It's, you know, objective private sector job creation, the prospect has enclosed on the site. It kind of hits all of these critical metrics to induce.
That the IDA statute requires.
Right.
Okay,
So,
Thanks.
More to come.
yep.
Additionally, we traveled a lot this month, you know, on presentations and related meetings, so kind of unique. We started this, we realized there's a county IDA, there's a handful of municipal IDAs, there's our partners in workforce at SUNY Orange. Everyone, you know, working on economic development, but often, you know, collaborative, but never in the same room, so we now do a monthly meeting of our municipal IDAs, our county IDA, our college partners at this boardroom, just talking about what's happening in their markets and how we can support one another. So that's been good to drive new strategy, particularly in our cities and our smaller towns, but also including the college in those efforts. So we've been holding these monthly meetings. We were up in Cooperstown for the New York State Economic Development Council newer event that we held. It's a leadership and policy summit, so talking about the critical issues of today. It might as well have been an energy summit. It was all about energy, as I said.
It was on Turning
We were
Stone,
in-
not Cooperstown,
yeah, we
but
were
that's okay. I
Corona.
mean,
Turning Stone. Turning Stone.
You don't wanna admit that you were at a casino for this conference, is that so?
Right, true. Yes.
Corona, New York is
I mean, that's where I was in
Italy.
Turning Stone anyway. I
Me
was in
too.
Cooperstown, that's.
You're exactly right, in Verona, no doubt. And, but it was great. We were up there. I spoke on a panel on disruptions in the economic development world, whether AI and housing and labor shortages. So pretty unique being on. We were on a panel with the gentleman who runs Yates County Economic Development. If you don't know where Yates is, it is way upstate New York, Adirondack Park, on the Canadian border. So when we talk about how we have labor shortage, they have 25,000 people in Yates County. So he's talking about the struggles of doing projects. I mean, there's a labor crunch in the macro sense, but there's a people crunch in upstate New York. So it was really just.
I'm so
unique
sorry to
perspective.
do this to you.
It wasn't, it's not Yates County, my friend.
I know.
It's Clinton County up there.
Or Franklin.
Oh my
Franklin.
Yates, yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yates,
Sure, Yates is
that's-
the Finger
Oh
Lakes.
my God.
You're
But
young,
we
you
didn't
don't
do it
really
with the guy from Yates
understand.
County.
No,
Right.
Yates County,
Yates County was, yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
Steve
right.
Griffin
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Did you say
That's
the
exactly
North?
right. That's exactly
No,
right.
but you're right about the North Country. I mean, they,
Oh, it's not-
it was interesting because he was talking about, I think we've seen that here, where people during COVID, right, left the urban areas, they left northern New Jersey, they left the city, they came up to beautiful upstate New York. They were like, this is amazing, high quality of life, they could work remotely. They bought houses, they put their kids in school. They really established roots, volunteered for the school board, did all these things, and then the next thing you know, their company out of the city's like, return to work.
Right, right.
So they literally have seen they saw this population expand, and it was a population that wasn't, kind of like we see it like in Sandy's County, we see the people who come up and they just come for the weekend and they leave. These are people who like set down roots and had intent to stay,
Right.
and now they all went away.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different economic, social, the schools hired people to teach those kids. Now they're I mean, like, it's.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And it puts it in perspective when we say we don't have labor down here.
It should.
We do have people. You know, it's a different set of challenges. So interesting perspectives. You know, certainly.
Can I just comment, because energy was the critical, and it
Yes.
just continues to highlight the number one, and number two isn't even close anymore, like workforce or the deal, or, the power. And that's why, certain people on this board are critically important with the value that they can bring. Now, you know what I mean, Mike? So, but the energy is the crisis everywhere.
Yes.
And, it's your life, right?
Yeah.
But on economic development, the state, Empire State Development is so, they're in such desire of sites that don't exist, that have power, that there's most projects, they have nowhere to put them in the whole
Yeah.
state. So the Empire, that's where how fast New York all of a sudden became a reality. They're paying for that. Money's no object. In fact, right now they're having trouble finding legitimate, credible business parks that are in progress to throw the money at. So that's the opportunity, I think, is if you have credibility with them, I wouldn't worry about the money. The money will come. Anyway, but
Well said.
3 separate, at least 3, maybe it was 4, but I know 3, I remember I went to
Energy
panels
focus, yeah.
on energy, it was unbelievable.
I will say kudos to Ryan for putting together a really good program. And one of the things I thought was interesting was the first plenary session was all of the appointed officials at the top of the state's sort of energy policy entities who, did what you think they would do, right? Then literally the next breakout session was all of the people who run the actual energy things, right, like NYPA, and who then really laid bare the gap between aspirational policy
Yeah.
and
reality.
where we are and where we can actually be. And to me, it was, I happen to know a couple people on that panel, so I know they're very straightforward people, but I thought it was refreshing to have a frank conversation in a room full of people who this means, it's not, a thought experiment. This is very meaningful every day. I thought that was really interesting. I also thought it was very interesting that the appointed panel did their thing. The moderator was great, by the way. He was.
It was Steuben County.
Steuben County IDA guy.
Jamie
He was
Johnson.
great. They had their pictures taken on the stage. They walked off the stage. Of course, what do you all do during the 15 minutes between sessions? You check your phone. And the state announced that they were rolling back the electrify all the buildings on January 1st.
Right.
Literally, as these people were walking out of the building.
They punted, but they didn't tell you when. When
Yeah.
they stopped it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm surprised I didn't hear that. That's great.
So anyway,
That's great.
sorry, we
No,
jumped
not
in,
at all.
but
It was great.
it
It
was
was great.
really great, and your panel was terrific. I think you made some interesting points that I know other people really took notice of with respect to particularly workforce development, that I know a bunch of folks were saying, I gotta find out more about what you're doing in that respect, particularly with your, was it M&M?
Oh yeah, we have this phrase, it's we need to reach the people who are destined out of school for the two M's, the mall, the military, and try to reskill them for, I guess, the third M, which is manufacturing. So that's an effort that is, SUNY Orange is deeply involved in, and trying to reach these often disenfranchised and forgotten about students and skilling them for the jobs of tomorrow, to which we have hundreds of openings across our largest employers, and they just can't connect to the talent. So we're trying to make a conscious effort to train the folks who are in those spaces.
And you brought that up in your panel discussion, and I saw a lot of people around the room take note, and I'm sure you've had some outreach because that was really impactful.
It's a great community, the EDC, it's folks who share great ideas, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, lessons learned, so I can't say enough about, it was a great conference, and more to come on that, additionally, so I had the privilege of facilitating the Vision Hudson Valley strategic planning session. They're updating their organizational direction and mission, so they asked me to come in and do a strategic planning day, which was great. We presented at the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, Lucas and myself, just giving an update on our market focus and site development and the new industry clusters we're building here. Coming up at the end of the week, I'll be the MC for this Leadership Orange 2.0 conference, and I think Susan Dean is the first breakout session on the arts in the boardroom, which is exciting. But I'll be the MC of that event, which I'm excited about. And then we have a presentation in Orange and Rockland talking about low demand and in pockets of activity where we need to really be investing in our infrastructure. Mike, I look forward to seeing you there.
Where's that at?
That is at Pearl River at their HQ. And then we also had the interesting opportunity of going down to New York City and speaking at the State Association of Realtors with the head of New York City Economic Development and the head of the State of Connecticut Economic Development Authority on lower New York tri-state competition. It was the day after the New York City mayoral election, so that was an interesting, tone and perspective. But great experience to meet folks down who are doing real estate in lower New York and thinking about Upper Hudson Valley and what that means as compared to Connecticut. So busy month, and then tomorrow night we have hope to see you all there. We have an event with CS Arch. It's an architecture firm on the Newburgh waterfront. They do these workforce-oriented events throughout the state. They just built an $85 million workforce center in the city of Newburgh, so I'll be moderating a panel consisting of Todd Diorio, Dr. Chris Young, and then the Council of Industry on Workforce Development and how we can scale this 2Ms concept more or less. So busy month, and more to come on that, but really focused on spreading our message and our relationships across the state. And then we also, of course, in the background are working on our annual event, which has it's the beast of our events. We are, currently tracking, we've surpassed our sponsorship goal. We're on track with registrations and marketing, and frankly, the work that Rebecca Holtz, our event director, has done on this event is extraordinary. In fact, I'd love Rebecca, are you out there? I want Rebecca to come in, if that's okay, just to give 2 minutes on her process and what she's been doing, because, she's wrangling, here Rebecca. Rebecca is wrangling hundreds of people. She's getting names, slides, working with sponsors, amazing customer service, so we cannot pull off this event without Rebecca. Just really impressed. Could you just give us a sense of your process and what's going on in your department?
Yeah, so generally speaking, when we first promote the event, we blast it out to the whole database, 6,000 plus people. Generally, a lot of people just come in naturally, but there's those that we kind of have to pull a little bit more, and this event in particular has so many more specialty sponsorships, so with that comes more ordering, more customizing of things, more interaction with the sponsors. Hey, do you like this table gift? Hey, do you like this design for your coffee cup? A lot more involvement. And then of course our major investors get a lot of tickets, our sponsors get tickets, so it's like, if you're a major investor, you're a sponsor, you get this many, so it's a lot of math and a lot of individual, this person gets this, it's not a one size fits all. And then of course with Sarah being out, we're, down our marketing director right now, so a little bit outsourcing of things, a little bit of shifting everything here, and all of us kind of being more hands-on than normal.
Yeah. And Rebecca has very much taken on the marketing role in Sarah's absence, and is managing hundreds of relationships and making sure everyone is happy. So just couldn't do it without Rebecca, and I felt that she just needs amazing recognition for what she provides the organization. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca.
See you all there. If you didn't give me your names, please do so.
Thank you. So,
Connor, how many people do you expect?
so right now, we're tracking somewhere between 525 and 550.
No. Is that a record year or is that?
Yeah, you know, we normally fall right around 525. So we'll fall and it's an issue because it's a space concern as well. There's only so many unions we can fit in the venue, but I think 525, 550 based on where we're trending on RSVPs at this point in time. So
Great.
pretty excited, it's gonna be good.
Well, I think the message that it's an invite only too, I think spurs people, like I had a text that I was gonna ask you who I sent it to, now I know who, begging for an opportunity, is there any way I can help them get access to the event? Well, I have to talk to Connor, but I think for you, we probably can, so I will get you that information. But the perception is, and the invite's good, because you don't want to invite that your demonstrators come in and take over meetings like that's happened in the past. You know what I mean?
Right,
I remember
right.
those exciting moments when
Yeah.
you just fall on the ground and flop. But I think it's a coveted event to attend, and that takes a lot of work to get that.
And we've got, between, you know, Lucas, Cassie, Rebecca, the team is coalesced around pulling off a great event. And it's not just, you know, we say it all the time, we don't want people just to come up to go to an event for the sake of coming to an event. We want, you know, strategic programming, that's valuable, great relationship building, you know, having the best and brightest from across the region. And we have folks from, you know, like Ron Peters might come down from Fulton County. So we just have a widening net of folks from across the state who are starting to come to the event. So pretty excited for it, but kudos to our team for really making it happen. Coming back, we had a successful investor breakfast where we hit a new 15%, our goal is 10% over on that, so we hit around 17 to 18% over on our investor breakfast on top line revenue, and then also got great feedback from the Fed. Kartik and his team, who were also at the EDC conference, Sean was from his team, is number 2, and she said she'd like to come back with Kartik and in fact the president of the Fed to spend time with us again, and also to widen our net to include utility CEOs. They're hearing all this concern about energy and consumer products and pricing and manufacturing. So they want to come and spend a couple days with us in the Hudson Valley and Orange County. So they would lean on us to help point them in the right direction and host another event. So some exciting feedback. And we also had a QPM somewhere in the middle there that we topped at around 130, 140 people at Newburgh Brewing, which is great. Trying to spread our events throughout the county, not just concentrated in the Goshen Wallkill area, but spread our wings. So somewhere in the middle, you know, we're also doing projects and having fun at the same time. So that's our month in review, and I think at this point we hand it off to Mike for a brief industry update in the banking world. Unless anyone has questions.
Anyone have questions? Gone?
Good.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Well, I'd say in general in Orange County that from our bank's perspective that things are sort of business as usual. We're a bit of a barometer of the banking industry in that we have, everybody's got to deposit their money someplace and they have to borrow their money from someplace. And so in general, we get to feel, and I would say my peers would probably share the same thing, that in Orange County, that it's, there's no strong trends in either direction. And for that, we're happy. And always around us is interest rate expectations, interest rate, movements, and these increases have led to, or decreases, I should say, have led to some decrease in borrowing costs, which is good for certainly the consumer and the businesses that are out there. There's always this disconnect, though. These are short-term rates. Fed rates are very immediate, and a lot of the equipment financing, certainly commercial real estate financing, is a much longer term. So the markets kind of drive what those rates are as opposed to what's short term. What immediately happens though is if you are borrowing money on prime, based on prime, it immediately gets that positive movement down as interest rates move down. It doesn't necessarily translate either into interest rates on deposits nor longer term lending. It's just what it is. It's always been that way. There was a lot of concern that the tariffs were going to be, the uncertainty was going to create turmoil, and we just haven't seen it. And I would say just we in Orange County, but certainly some of my peers that are throughout the state. And so that's a good thing. Somehow that's all been settled in its own way. One interesting topic that's getting a lot of attention, it's very positive for banks, except for the very biggest banks, is that there's a lot of talk around increasing the FDIC insurance. So that has been it went from 100,000, I think it was in the 2008-9 timeframe, it went up to 250. And it was very, very problematic back in 2023 when Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank failed. And then there was a flight to a lot of excess monies going to the bigger banks, the too big to fail as they're known. And a lot of that, well, it went, and we thought that, hoping that some of that would float back down into the rest of the banks. It really has not happened. So the largest banks clearly have a big advantage when it comes to funding for whatever their activities are. And I'm pleased to say that on all parts of the federal government, and this is a federal government and regulatory input matter, that they're taking this very seriously. And there's a very good chance that DDA accounts, checking accounts, both personal and business, would be fully covered up to $20 million. It's still in a negotiation there. In other words, the interest-bearing money would be somewhat at risk, but the theory is that if you're at all concerned about your bank, just for the time being, shift it into your checking account until things settle out, in the hope that when it does settle out, then you can go back and start earning interest. But you don't go and make a wire transfer to Chase and settle it that way. I would also say that the administration is very, the federal administration is very pro-community banking, regional banking, and that to me is obviously a very positive thing for our industry. So I guess the message would be that locally in Orange County, we're somewhat status quo. Some people feel it positively more than others. Some people might feel it in a bit more strained way than others, but on balance, I think that we're where we need to be. Just to expand a little bit out of the commercial banking side, as the stock market has again had another record year. It's really being driven by, I think it's called the top 7, there's a better acronym for it right now, but NVIDIA, all of these AI driven kind of technologies, it's really pulled the entire S&P with it there. The rest of the markets are experiencing, I guess, a little bit more normal kinds of returns and therefore stock behavior appreciation. But those continue to be very, very strong, and we're seemingly every week or two we're hearing about a record high that has come into play. In reality, generally there can be corrections that happens, but for now it's been a great run for those that are in the market there. So on balance, I think that the economy's doing okay. I mean, these employment challenges that companies have continue to bolster the economy. I think the message that we got at the presentation at the breakfast was really that the Fed has 2 objectives: to keep inflation down and to keep employment low. So those are often competing tools that they have to use to try to make that, have that accomplished. And so I think that we're in a trading range. There's not going to be a lot of great changes in interest rates in through next year. There could be another 0.25%, there could be another 0.25%, but it's nothing dramatic. We're not in a challenging area which needs to correct those 2 parts of their position. So that's it. Our bank's doing, it has just, the last thing I'd say is that our bank has been on the NASDAQ since 21. There are about 4,400 banks in the country. In the 80s, early 80s, there were 14,000 banks, so there was industry-wide a lot of consolidation. From an asset size, our bank is in the low 500th range, but from a market cap standpoint, we're in the 200th range, give or take 210, 220. So we're a big, small bank here, so we get to see a lot of these dynamics. The bank is very focused on business and wealth management, and I think that we're getting rewarded for being good at that here. The consumer business in general has really been drifting to the much bigger banks, the self-service, the ability to do your banking online. There's some great quality smaller banks in our county, I should say, that are still doing a very good job for individuals there. But there is a trend across the country generally that the bigger banks are really where most of the personal checking account, personal business is taking place. But there's still a very strong niche that is getting played out by focused regional banks on business banking, and so that's what we've been focused on ourselves. So.
Are you still looking to grow, or would you say a lot of this consolidation is going on? Is Orange Bank still looking at that?
We have really expanded significantly into Westchester, the Bronx, and Rockland County. We still have a very big presence. We've been in this county since 1892, so we're pretty well known, we're pretty well covered in terms of the industries that we want to be in. In general, we don't have any interest in growing to the north or even to the east. There's a lot of really good banks that are up in those regions, but believe it or not, as you go down into Westchester specific, which is really a big supplier of additional banking business for us, it's dominated in Westchester by the very big banks, and there's just a couple of smaller banks, they're actually smaller than us, that are in Westchester. So that gap it's the classic being a small fish in a very big pond is a nice place to be. So that's just what it is. So.
Can I just ask you a question on credit? I'm just watching, seems to be after a long time, the credit card companies might be giving a little relief to retailers and controllers, at least the appearance is that, the facts are true.
What do you mean on the rate?
On the rate that they charge, that, because
Yeah.
most retailers are now charging the consumer if they use it.
Yeah, it gets
It's
passed
pretty
on.
interesting what's happening.
Yeah.
But the bigger question is, what's your sense on the amount of credit because they always do these analysis of by medium income, how much credit per, are we high on the side? Does the credit or debt continue to rise, or is that level off? What's your sense on that, just for the consumer?
Yeah, I'll answer it first this way. There has been reported increases in delinquencies, and that tends to mean that people are taking on more credit than they can handle. That shows up in car loan delinquencies and credit card delinquencies. This is really a very much a macro and consumer response there. So I guess that's there. One of the things that's very upsetting, I was at the Pattern presentation in, I guess it was in New Paltz, and they have been laying out in their analysis, a recent analysis on housing, that unfortunately the supply and demand on the housing front, especially single-family homes, is really very challenging to the traditional equation for people's ability to get a mortgage, to afford a mortgage, to buy the house. So in other words, what the affordability of the typical mortgage historically has been isn't enough to get what's available in the marketplace. So short of getting help from family or otherwise, they have to delay it. I just heard that the average first-time home buyer in the United States is 40 years old. So they're waiting a long time to get there. This is highly, highly driven by what happened in COVID. There is so many mortgages out there that are in the 3% range. And the normal turnover of houses has been slowed down dramatically. People will stay in that house maybe to the end of time, and they'll live with a smaller home or an inadequate home because they are the trade-off is just, would be a much higher mortgage rate, but it was highly driven by the fact that they were, a lot of people were able to refinance or get mortgages at a rate that is historically way below what it probably should be, so it's
So-
unfortunate for some of
So on that topic, just quick, I heard, the government is looking to float out their 50-year mortgages.
Yeah, I think that's a very bad
Yes.
idea.
Yeah,
Extremely.
I would think so.
If you do the math, if you buy, a $500,000 house and a 50-year mortgage at like 6 or 7% interest, which is about what
It's
you're
gonna
gonna
cost
pay,
you,
right?
what, $2 million?
Oh yeah, I mean like your house
forget.
after 50 years, what you're gonna pay, right? It's not. I mean, it's really interesting. I was just over at the county discussing how municipal bonds work, and like how the municipal bond market works, and how, because when we do things like water projects and sewer projects, right? That's how they're funded, right? And one of the underlying concepts of that is this thing called a period of probable usefulness, right? How long will this asset bring you value? You don't want the borrowing period to extend, ideally, you actually have the borrowing period end before you have to make another major capital investment, right? So that you're not, we've had very unfortunate circumstances where people have, sometimes due to no fault of their own, borrowed money, built an asset, that asset was supposed to last for 20 or 30 years, it lasts for 10. You are still paying it back after we've demolished the thing and built you another one, and we've now compounded what you're paying, because we take a new bond, this bond over here that's just running out there in time, we take a new one and add on top of it. So, I think the 50-year mortgage is, it was really interesting because I was listening to a thing about the creation of the 30-year mortgage. Because remember, in It's a Wonderful Life savings and loan, right? You probably do this a lot better than I can, but that was how most people, that's like a co-op, right? Savings and loans, you put your money in, right? Everybody pulls their dollars, it's the way you save your money as well, but then when Connor needs money for a house, he goes and borrows the money and it goes back in. And it's all this very small little circle. It was FDR with the whole, how are we gonna get people in houses, right?
Right.
So we're gonna create, the government's gonna get involved in mortgage lending, and we're gonna, right?
Yeah.
I think the 50-year mortgage is a very
Yeah,
exciting
I think it's really a
proposition.
play to lowering your monthly
Payment,
payment.
right.
And I think if you're thinking that way, you should really just think about what is the lowest payment on an adjustable rate mortgage. This will correct itself.
Yes.
It may be 5 years, but there's gonna be a normalcy that's gonna come back into the flow of, every year is gonna get better in terms of the availability of supply of homes, but it's all personal too.
Because that's the other thing, is that was a 50-year fixed rate, and that's the, right, it wasn't, right, that's the, you stand, as a bank, you stand to lose your shirt, right? Or you got to set the
here's
rate
a-
high enough that you would lose your shirt.
Exactly.
Those are your choices.
Here's another, and I'll just leave it at that, but this is just a state of how it is. There's been so much regulation on banks in general when it comes to residential mortgages, that the vast majority of banks have gone out of the residential mortgage business.
Yeah.
And now Rocket Mortgage, and that world of outside of banking, they don't have a lot of, not only the regulation that we have, but they also don't have the requirements like Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, very big responsibility that we have as a bank. So something to the effect that now 70% of the mortgages, residential mortgages in the country, are provided outside of the banking business there, and it will only get bigger, and therefore the business within banks will get smaller. And it's really unfortunate. It's really changed the whole dynamic of how we get credit. So.
Thank you, Mike.
Very interesting, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you spoke about the 50-year, where are they like really focusing on doing the where you could carry over your mortgage rate also? Because I knew that came with the 50-year, where the feds were looking for a 50-year loan as well, and then like someone like me who has a very low interest rate, if I want to buy another property, I could bring that over with me.
Who's,
I don't know how you
It's
do that.
generally
the
what
problem is who's right, like who's
Yeah.
backing that? Where's the money
Because the bank
coming
wouldn't
from
be like,
to,
yes,
right?
let's
Where's the
do
money
that.
coming
You
from?
have a
It's kind
Yeah.
of fun. I have a lot of conversations where I say, where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great idea, but where's
Because
the
that,
money coming
that
from?
came in hand with the 50-year.
yeah,
That would be nice if you could do that.
yeah.
Carry that over.
But it's all in the agreement.
Yeah.
Right.
who would allow it? Would I, if Kurt bought my house, and that could be a great deal for both of us if you could take my, say, 3.5% mortgage there, but that's just not in the contract with the.
Not today's
bank.
rates.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just have one more question, Mike. Fraud, how much is that of, because we've actually just experienced it within my own company.
Yeah.
And then just getting out from under that by someone just, you wrote a check on someone and some bad player somehow got a hold of that. But you talk to your bank about it and they're just like, we are just, that's all we're inundated now
Paper
with.
checks are a nightmare, right? Like, it's like the worst thing that could ever happen is mailing a paper
Yeah.
check.
Well, and we even overnight, so it was, went to a government agency, it was safe there, somewhere at the point where it got deposited by the bank, cause they took it to the bank, deposited. Someone got a hold of it there at the bank and then this check suddenly became washed
Did
and.
you guys just see, there was an employee arrested at the Latham Mail Distribution Facility for stealing checks?
Yeah.
One of our checks got stolen.
So
Yeah,
how much is that a problem?
It is for the industry a gigantic problem there. So for businesses, there's what's called positive pay. It's more work.
That's what I'm doing now.
It's
positive
more,
pay.
it's a pain in the neck for especially depending on your resources there, it can be a pain in the neck because daily what you're doing is you're giving a file to your bank of all the checks that you issued, and then there's a match that takes place to make sure that it's, the amount is correct and the payee is the same, so that's great protection. Otherwise, a business only really has 24 hours, so you almost have to be looking at your account all the time to see if something's unusual in there, and again, it's a huge resource issue. There is protection with consumers, personal. I wanna say it's a month that you have, it could be a little bit longer, maybe 45 days. But even if you have the protection, wherever your bank is there's gonna be an investigation. You're gonna be out the money for a period of time, and if there's anything that's amiss, it could be troublesome there. So it really has changed the nature of payments. I think that the idea of a check is really gone by the wayside there. There's very few checks that are getting issued anymore. And obviously it has all the blueprint of what's in your checking account.
Yeah.
Your account number, a real account, the check number itself, your information, your personal information is a name and address, so just the online banking is really the way to go, because so much of that ends up going to, like Orange and Rockland, there's a file that goes automatically to them, it doesn't even create a check anymore, but anyway, it is a problem.
Yeah,
And
it is.
it's
It
a real
happened
problem.
to me personally.
Did it do it personally? Or-
Yeah, paper check.
Paper, yeah. Yeah, they wash it, as you say, it's not the check itself,
Right.
they just
Yeah, they wash
replicate it, and
Yes.
then they just take a picture of it and
Yeah.
just run it through until,
Yeah, and we didn't find out until the person that we issued the check to called months later and said, hey, you never paid this.
oh,
And we were like, funny thing, we have a canceled check.
yeah, and then,
Oh, interesting, yeah.
yeah,
Well, we all have to be careful, for sure.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, we are going to go into executive session, so I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities or sale or exchange of securities held by such public body, but only when publicly would substantially affect the value thereof. Do I have a second to go into
Second.
executive? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're now. motion to come out of executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. We are back from executive session. The time now is 5:26. No actions or votes were taken in executive session, therefore no minutes were taken. Motion carried. Old business, I don't have any old or new business. Does anybody else? Okay, unless there's any old or new business in this meeting, I would make a motion we adjourn.
So
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Finish too much.
Yep.